lost their lives. Of the 40 people who have been treated at Christchurch Hospital, one has now passed. So the total number of people who have died in this horrendous event are 49. And our hearts go out to them and all of their family, all of their friends, all of their loved ones. And I want to assure everyone that we will do our best for them. And at the end, I will talk about and give you the 0800 number so that people can contact us to get more information about those who have died and some surrounding circumstance. I would like to also add that so far one person, a male in his late 20s, has been charged with murder and should appear in the Christchurch court tomorrow morning. 3 other people were apprehended. We believe one of those persons who was armed and was at the scene may have had nothing to do with this incident. And the 2 other people that have been apprehended, again in possession of firearms in the general environment, we are working through to understand what their involvement is. We have recovered a number of firearms from both of the scenes, Linwood Avenue and Deans Avenue. I would like to assure everyone around New Zealand that every available police and emergency resource with our other government agencies and Defence Force are doing everything they can to keep our communities safe. We have had no other threats since we responded to this incident. We are working with a wide range of community to give support to everyone who needs it. We have staff around the country ensuring that everyone is kept safe, and that includes our armed defenders and special tactics groups right across the country being very vigilant and having a presence around all of our mosques to ensure nothing further occurs. As I said, this is a evolving situation. We will continue to bring you as much information as we possibly can. I will answer your questions in a minute if I can, but before I do, I would like to communicate the 0800 number for people to call for more information, especially around their loved ones. And that number is 0800 115 019. I would also like to commend, and some of you would have seen the brave actions on social media of police staff who responded to this incident. They have gone above and beyond on behalf of their communities to apprehend at least one of these offenders. So I take my hat off to all of my staff. I'm extremely proud of what they've done to date. Thank you.
Why were these people not on a security watch list? Were they completely unknown to police?
So that's a very good question. What I want to tell you right now is that we had no agency had any information about these people. And I can also tell you that I've been in contact with my Australian colleagues. They have no information on them at all either. And they are assisting with our inquiries. But I can also add that part of our investigation will be to look back at every possibility to ensure that we in law enforcement and security didn't miss any opportunities to prevent this horrendous event.
Who carried out the shootings at the Deans Avenue Mosque? Was it the same person as who carried out the shootings at Linwood?
Look, I would love to go into detail, but a person has been charged. For me to now go into details of who did what would not be proper.
Is the person charged Brenton Tarrant?
Again, I know there is a name within the public domain, but it would be improper for me now to confirm that because a person has been charged.
There was a threat on Facebook on a Facebook page made towards the Muslim community. Are you aware of that? They said that police had an early warning of this attack.
I'm aware of that suggestion, which we're working through at the moment. When I have absolute clarity about that, I'll be sharing that. So I'm only aware of the suggestion. I'm not aware of it actually existing, but if it did, I'll be sharing that fact.
Are you actively searching for any other suspects at the moment?
We never assume that there aren't other people involved. That's why we've got a immense presence out there across Canterbury and right across New Zealand. But we don't have named or identified people that we're looking for. But it would be wrong to assume that there is no one else.
So you're not actively looking for any other shooter at this stage?
At this point, we are not actively looking for any identified persons.
How many days, weeks, months in the planning do you think this attack was?
Look, I couldn't tell you, but I think I don't need to tell you this is a very well planned event.
Was there explosives on the body of one of the attackers?
So I'm aware of that commentary as well. What I can say is that that person may have suggested that. We have eliminated that as a possibility. There was not. We've also talked about my IED devices on 2 vehicles. I'd like to clarify that and say that there were possibly 2 IDs on 1 vehicle. And we've disabled one, and we're in the process of disabling the other with the assistance of the Defence Force.
With controlled explosions at Britomart and Auckland, anything to do with this investigation?
We believe not, but of course there's a real heightened sense out there within the communities. People are being very vigilant, and I congratulate them and encourage that. But we've dealt with 2 bags that were left at Britomart. They've been detonated. We don't believe they were of any threat.
You spoke about increased police presence at other mosques throughout New Zealand. Are you concerned that this event could be coordinated with other potential events? There could be other events coming in New Zealand?
We don't have any information to that extent, but it's always important to take preventative precautions, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Was Christchurch Hospital targeted?
No, I think there was some early reporting of that, but it was confused with the fact that 40 people were taken there very quickly for emergency medical treatment. It was not targeted.
Obviously we're aware mosques closed at the moment. We've heard also synagogues. Have you also advised that synagogues should close? Is that true? You're aware of that?
I'm not aware of that advice, but we're giving everyone advice to be very vigilant and take care of yourselves and report anything that you might find suspicious to us, so that we can respond immediately.
We've also been told that police were aware that maybe there was sort of a suggestion that there could have been an attack planned for St Patrick's Day. Is there?
I don't have any intelligence to that effect.
So you aren't aware of what's happened? You aren't aware of what's happened in Christchurch being linked to anything else in the country at this stage?
I don't have any intelligence to that effect. I'm not ruling anything out. We have our eyes wide open on this. We're being extremely vigilant in terms of any possibilities, and that's what we want to ensure the public that we are right on top of.
How many police are currently in Christchurch?
Well, they have a force of over 1,000. We're sending more. They should be there from Wellington now. Surrounding districts are sending staff. I would imagine that every one of those 1,000 staff wanting to help out on this operation.
The Prime Minister said that the perpetrator held extremist views, and this was published. How was he not, or she, not on the police's radar?
Well, I think what the Prime Minister was referring to was what was published post 1:33 p.m. this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That was Police Commissioner Mike Bush.
Okay, we've been listening to the New Zealand Police Commissioner Mike Bush speaking on those attacks in Christchurch. He has confirmed that the total number of people who've died is now 49. He's also confirmed that a male in his 20s has been charged with murder and will be in court tomorrow. He also says that there have been no other threats since that incident, and there is massive security around the mosques and warning residents to remain vigilant. And to that, we can now speak to Sam McStay, who's a resident of Christchurch. and he lives near the mosques. He joins us live from there via Skype. Thank you very much for speaking to us at this difficult time. You live near the mosques, I understand. Were you aware that these attacks were happening at the time?
I was actually at work when the attacks started, so I worked 20 minutes out of the city. But I guess it was around about 2 o'clock. News started to filter through that there had been a shooting at a mosque in Christchurch, and to hear that sort of news itself is a shock. And they'd reported that maybe a couple of people had been injured. So my immediate concern was for my wife and 7-week-old daughter, who were at home about a kilometre from the mosque near Hackley Park. So I rang them immediately and checked that they were okay. And then after speaking to them, sort of obviously at work, pretty shocked. But news kept filtering through, and it got worse and worse, and all of a sudden there were casualties, and we were in complete shock.
Indeed, that must have been incredibly frightening. Police have said that residents have said there's no other threat at the moment that they can see, but residents should remain vigilant. How are you feeling, you and your neighbours feeling about the security situation at the moment?
I guess we're still processing what's actually happened. So we're in deep shock because, this just doesn't happen in our city, a beautiful city of Christchurch, and definitely doesn't happen in New Zealand. So I guess we're all in lockdown of sorts. We're all holding our loved ones close by, and watching the news, and I guess and praying and sending our love and thoughts to the families of the victims.
Now, Christchurch was the scene of an earthquake a couple of years ago, and the residents of Christchurch had to go through so much and had to cope with that. And now this happens a few years later. How are you all feeling about this? I know you're all in shock. What are your first thoughts?
It's hard to put it into words, really, because the earthquakes really devastated the city, but everyone sort of came together, and the rebuild is still happening from those earthquakes, even though the major one happened about 8 years ago now. So it's been a tough road, but we've sort of rebuilt our lives and rebuilt the city, and for something like this to happen now is deeply distressing, and it's a real kick in the guts, and it's really devastating. An earthquake is a natural phenomenon. It's hard to blame anyone for that kind of trauma, but this kind of devastation is man-made. It comes from hate. It comes from anger. It comes from intolerance to communities, and we're not used to that in this country. We're not used to that in our city. So it's a cruel blow, really, after what the city's been through.
Now, as you said, this is so unusual, and Christchurch or New Zealand is not a place for violent crimes. Police don't even carry guns regularly. Do you think things have to change now?
I guess we'd all prefer that they didn't. We like to think that we live in a safe community, and nowhere in the world is going to be 100% safe. But I think certainly in the immediate term, short term, yes, the police will have to carry weapons, carry guns. Whether that is a long-term prospect, it's hard to know. But I guess to feel protected and safe, that's probably what it's going to take. Now, certainly at this stage.
You spoke of your young children. How would you, they're very young at the moment, but if you had to look back or look forward and explain this incident, this horrible attack to them, how would you explain it to them?
That's a really good question. There's a lot of people out there in our world that sort of get turned in the wrong direction, get led astray. They are brainwashed. They are taught to be angry at the world, taught to hate certain people, hate certain religions, people from different backgrounds. And this was one man, a number of people that have gone down that path, I suppose, in life, and that they chose to do that for whatever reason. You can't really explain it, but all we can do is raise our kids with love and understanding and empathy for everyone, no matter what their background.
Sam McStay, really good to speak to you. Thank you for taking the time to speak to us, and our thoughts are with you, your family and your community.
Thank you.
OK, earlier we spoke to Christchurch-based journalist Laura Tupu on the phone, and she has the latest on the security measures that are still in place there.
They've told us they saw bodies on the ground covered in blood at the mosques. They said they saw a shooter who was wearing military gear, a helmet and holding a high-powered machine gun. And now this man had a 17-minute-long video of the shooting that was reportedly live-streamed, and we understand many internet providers are trying to take down any video of that is online. None of the people who have died have been identified at this stage, and the Prime Minister says it's one of our darkest days and the worst massacre in living memory in New Zealand. This happened on a Friday afternoon local time, so all the schools were in lockdown. That's since been lifted, so people have been able to go home. But around the mosques itself, there are still cordons in place, and there are hundreds of people gathering, family members of people who believe their loved ones were at the mosque, just looking for any information possible. Please say those people can be there because there are social workers to talk to them, there are police there to talk to them, but anyone who isn't related to anyone who may have been caught up in this should remain at home.
We'll be continuing our coverage of those mass shootings in New Zealand and bringing you the latest information on that. But for now, we're going to take a short break and bring you some other news. We'll be going to Gaza, where reprisal attacks. Israel says it's hit 100 Hamas targets in Gaza after rockets are fired at Tel Aviv. We'll bring you more information on that too.
Hello there. The weather's really messy across Europe at the moment. If we take a look at the satellite picture, we can see plenty of wet and windy weather piling in from the Atlantic and then making its way down into the southeast corner of Europe. And we're seeing lots of very strong winds and a fair amount of heavy rain as well. That system down in the southeast is gradually going to pull away from us, though, so things here will brighten up as we head through Friday and into Saturday. But elsewhere, we've got some very heavy rain making its way through parts of Germany, and that will sweep its way eastwards to be replaced by yet more wet and windy weather as we head through Saturday. Southern Europe on Saturday, though, does look a lot brighter, with 22 rather warm there in Madrid, and that sunshine extending across Italy and down towards Greece as well.